Hey guys, it's Mike here, and welcome to another video that we're going to be bringing you today on Dragon Ball Z. And in this video, we're going to be talking about another edition of Were They Helpful, in which we talk about whether or not certain characters were helpful in the Dragon Ball Z series. And of course, before we begin, I'm going to introduce my very special guests. First off, from Space Brisbane, his name is...
Superjayain. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And from the land of polar bears, penguins, frozen ice, and the Miami Heat, his name is...
Alrighty guys, it is Qaaman here today, but because we have another special guest in this video today, you are not going to hear the name Qaaman very often.
No, we're not, Quinn.
Or Tyler.
But anyway, but yes, the one who just spoke from Space Cuba, his name is...
Ice cold, no mistakes, Daddy.
Frieza?
Well, no, my name is Daddy. My name is Daddy.
Big Daddy D, right back in style. But anyway,
You're only allowed to call me Sir or Daddy. Remember that.
Well, I'll call you whatever I want, motherfucker. But anyway, we're going to be talking about today was Vegetto, the fusion between Goku or Kakarato, which is why there's an O at the end, and Vegeta, the fusion between them in the Buu Saga that fought Super Buu with Gohan absorbed, this super ultimate powerful being. Was he actually helpful in Dragon Ball Z? And I feel like there's points for and there's points against. But of course, when we're actually going to talk about this, I'm going to let Danny, Big Daddy D himself, start this off.
Absolutely, Vegito was helpful. Vegito, there was no way that Goku or Vegeta could have survived on their own against Gohan or Ultimate Buu. There was just no way. I mean, in the anime, you actually see a filler scene where they try to take him on and they get just owned. Even Goku at full power had no chance. They had to become Vegito. They had to unlock the power of the potara fusion. And what many people miss about this fight, they don't understand it. Again, Dragon Ball is a very simple show, but I don't want to come off like a douchebag here, but for some people, it's just not simple enough, I guess. Vegito was not trying to kill Buu. He was trying to sucker Buu into letting him get absorbed. Yes. And Vegito could have killed Buu literally at any time during this fight. At any time. And he didn't do it because he was kept going and going and going until Buu finally thought to absorb him. And the whole purpose of that was to go in there and save Goten, Trunks, Piccolo, etc. Now, I know many people ask, well, wait a minute, why didn't they just kill Buu and then go to Namek and wish everybody back? Well, that you're going to have to ask Toriyama or watch one of Mike's videos that he'll do on this eventually, if it's not already up by now. But nonetheless, I do think Vegeta was useful because had it not been for him, Goku and Vegeta would have been dead, and then nobody would have protected the Earth.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Buu would have blown up, the Earth and probably everything else in the universe. Jay, what do you think about this subject?
I definitely think that they were useful, and they just wanted to rescue Piccolo, Goten, Trunks, and Gohan. That was obvious.
And Clayton.
And don't forget Clayton. But
yes,
they weren't to know that their fusion was going to separate inside Buu, and like you said off air earlier,
inside
Buu, like you said off air earlier,
inside Dragon Ball Z.
Okay, so basically they weren't to know that their fusion was going to separate inside Majin Buu's body, and like Mike said earlier off air, basically, they could have just used the Dragon Balls to push them back. That is true, but Dragon Balls were always used as a last resort in that series, and they always try to avoid using them. So I definitely feel like they were necessary for the story, they were necessary for the plot, and they could have ended this, like I've said in the past, they could have ended that arc at multiple different portions, and they could have ended that arc easily with Vegito rescuing all of the Z fighters from Buu's body, and then killing Majin Buu. That would have been a great ending, but they went with a different path, which was also a good ending. But there's many different points. I feel like the Vegito was necessary, though, because Toriyama was trying to slow down the story there, and you could tell because he didn't know how he wanted to end that arc at that point, and I can almost guarantee you that's why Vegito was introduced, because he couldn't figure out how he wanted to end the arc, and Vegito was a fail-safer, or I think he was a fail-safer if he couldn't figure out a proper ending, like a proper ending to the arc, or he couldn't come up with a way for Goku to beat Majin Buu, which he eventually did. I feel like Vegito would have been his fail-safe character because, as we know, Vegito was infinitely more powerful than Majin Buu. So I do feel he was definitely necessary to the series because, as Denny pointed out, without Vegito, Goku and Vegeta would have had no chance and the Earth would have been destroyed much, much sooner, and Goku and Vegeta would have been destroyed with the Earth, thus ending the arc at that point. So I definitely think Vegito is a necessary character in the story.
Yeah, I mean, just although to say with the Dragon Balls, I mean, in that arc, Goku does go out of his way on several occasions to say, oh, let Buu kill everyone on the Earth. We have the Dragon Balls. Oh, it doesn't matter what you do. We have the Dragon Balls. So I don't know if Goku really ever really shared that opinion, just because of the fact that Goku just doesn't seem to care. Like, he killed a tenth the population of the Earth by accident in his fight against Buu, and that it's like, oh, we could just use the Dragon Balls. I don't care. So I don't know. I just always thought it was kind of dumb that he didn't just immediately wipe him out and just wish them back from the dead with the Dragon Balls, because they wouldn't still be a part of Buu when they're dead. They still have different souls and stuff like that. They would only be a part of him when they're alive. It wouldn't make any sense for him to go to the other world with their bodies. You know what I mean? It wouldn't really make a lot of sense.
Well, what happened to the Kais then? See, again, it's just doesn't make any sense.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's Toriyama's writing at that point in time. Also, I do remember Buu, maybe this was only in the anime, but I do remember Buu saying that when someone has been absorbed into him for a very long period of time, they just vanish. Like, they just become part of him. They're just energy, you know, within him.
Yes, they become part of him, yeah, pretty much.
Yes. Not to mention, Buu went into his shell after he absorbed them and was revived, like, entirely. So it makes sense that they would cease to exist except for being inside of him just as remnants, you know, not actually as beings. So I don't feel like the others would have the same result if they just vaporize them. But that being said, Qaaman, what do you think about Vegetto? What do you think in terms of him being helpful? Because I just want to say real quick, even though Vegetto is super powerful, even though he obviously could have killed Buu in an instant, he was helpful in getting the people out of Buu that led to Kid Buu, the stuff like that. At the same time, like, he didn't kill him. Like, it almost feels like, in my opinion, that every single thing that they introduce in the Buu Saga is pretty much useless, actually, long term, because it doesn't really solve the problem.
That's a fact.
Mystic
they went
Gohan,
back to the Genki Dama.
Yeah, Mystic Gohan, fusion, 2 different kinds of fusion, stuff like that. Nothing actually beat Buu. So only the Genki Dama did. So, Quinn, what do you think?
Quinn or Qaaman, Mike? You gotta pick,
Quinn,
bro.
man, what do you think?
Okay. Well, what I was gonna say about Vegetto, in my opinion, kind of goes in terms of long-term and short-term. If you're looking at everything in a vacuum, he was completely useless because of the fact that you could say, well, you could have fucking stopped Buu, and you basically, you know, obviously just, like, stalled to get inside of his body, but then everybody ended up dying anyways. If you look at it in a vacuum, he was useless. And also, something I wanted to add to what you guys were saying earlier, yeah, you can say if it wasn't for Vegetto, you know, Buu would have blown up the Earth earlier, but Mike and I, you remember, Mike, we were talking off the air months ago, and I was saying, yeah, but why didn't Buu just blow up the planet when Goku and Vegeta were in his body anyways? Who was there to stop him? He could have just blown it up if he felt like it, right?
And the thing is, too, that is it a foregone conclusion that only Vegetto could use that barrier, like, that surrounds his body to get in Buu's body without being absorbed?
Well,
like,
we saw 17 use a barrier earlier in the series. The barriers have been used. Of course, Whis was the most effective one.
Yeah, so there's nothing really, in my opinion, that says that Goku or Vegeta themselves couldn't have created something like a force field not to be absorbed into Buu and just gotten this stuff out anyway.
Well, I agree with that, Mike. I'm not disagreeing with that, but what I'm saying is when Buu did absorb him, he could have blown up Earth right then and there. There's nothing stopping him. He was just, like, sitting around chilling, and that was bad writing, in my honest opinion. So in that, looking at it from a vacuum point of view, I thought that Vegetto was a nice little character that they brought around to fight Buu, and he could have stopped them the whole time. And honestly, let's think about it. How many times in Dragon Ball do people like, oh, he's just gonna wish him back anyways? I mean, that's literally what happened when Super Buu killed Chi-Chi, right? You know, Piccolo's like, Goten, don't worry, we'll wish her back eventually if you guys stop her.
And it's like, death has no consequence.
Yeah, no tension because you just wish anyone back.
Whereas if you look at the Trunks arc, or looking at Trunks' future, like, death has serious consequences. Like, if you think about it, in the Majin Buu Saga, significantly more people died than in Trunks' arc, but in Trunks' arc, you actually felt like the feeling of death, and that's why I think that in a vacuum, going back to your question of Vegetto, sorry, I think that in a vacuum, he definitely was not useful long-term, because he ended up wasting his time when he could have killed him anyway, similar to how we were also talking, Mike, where it actually would have been beneficial if Goku and Vegeta just wished Gotenks and Gohan over to kill Kid Buu instead of like trying to use a spirit bomb. So in a vacuum, he was useless, but for the temporary small point of time that, you know, he held him off, even though Buu could have destroyed Earth anyways, he was useful.
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially, this has essentially come down to Vegito was the most powerful character in the history of Dragon Ball Z before Beerus showed up as a, you know, purple cat and started kicking ass and taking names. And basically, he could have effortlessly killed Buuhan or any form of Buu whatsoever. Even if you think Kid Buu was stronger, he still could have beat him. I mean, you're wrong for thinking that, but he still could have beat him. And anyway, the point of the matter is that Vegito ultimately conveyed these characters to this certain point. Even if it's bad writing, he basically allowed things to transpire that allowed them to eventually defeat Buu. So I feel like he was helpful, and of course we all kind of agree that he was helpful in one way or another. So this has been another video in which we were talking about Dragon Ball Z. Tell us your own thoughts down below. Do you agree with us or do you disagree? Also, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out everyone's channel. As I always say, stick around because there's a lot more to come
in the past.
Christmas past.
Get the fuck off my channel.
Get the fuck out of my video with your bullshit. Fuck you.
And you better subscribe.